This week on Bigfoot Collectors Club The Other Side, it's an all-new Minifoot episode featuring the return of Bryce's secret stash. We call bullshit or believe it on a few paranormal videos, respond to listener comments, share our recommendations in the Collector's Corner, and more. Available exclusively on The Other Side, the parallel dimension of Bigfoot Collectors Club. Visit patreon.com/BigfootCollectorsClub for more info.
It's Bigfoot Collectors Club with Bryce and Michael. I know a ghost story or two. Let's do this.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Bigfoot Collectors Club, the show where we talk to amazing guests about their personal paranormal history and share stories of high strangeness. I am your host, Michael McMillan. With me always is your other host,
Bryce Johnson.
And unfortunately, sitting out today's recording, but he'll be back in phantom form doing music for you later this episode. Mr. Riley Bray, our super producer, is with us in spirit, but fear not, friends, because we have an amazing show tonight. I want to get straight into introducing our guest. He is a writer, a comedian, and a podcaster. He's the co-host of My Brother, and Me, and Schmanners. He is also the co-author of the best-selling graphic novel series based on another one of his podcasts, The Adventure Zone. Please, boys and girls, give a warm Club Scout salute to TRAVIS McELROY.
Yay!
Hi, everybody. Hey. It's me, TRAVIS McELROY. I want to say hi to boys and girls and everybody else. I include everybody.
Okay, fair enough. Welcome to the virtual clubhouse, Travis.
Hey, it's so nice to be here. I love what you've done with the place.
Thank you.
I like all the weird decorations. I'm a little bit threatened by some of them, but in a good way.
I feel like you're actually psychically in our old clubhouse because you described it perfectly.
Yes, I find it. Psychically, I find it psychically intriguing, psychically unpleasant, perhaps. But I like it. It's putting me on edge. A heightened sense of preparedness. I'm ready for whatever comes.
Which is disturbing you more, all of our books on witchcraft or the 7-foot stuffed Yeti?
Well, the one that's really throwing me is the stuffed head that appears to be my head mounted on the wall.
Oh,
that
one,
yeah.
We have one of those made up for all of our guests.
Oh, well, that, I don't know. Does that make it better or worse?
Well,
at least we didn't turn it into like a talking
the rest of
fish
eternity.
Thing.
No, I'd rather have that. That I get a big mouth Billy Bass. You know what I mean? Like, I understand a big mouth Billy Bass on a very deep level, but I'm worried that my own head is going to start talking to me like I was like at the Tiki Room in Disney World. You know what I mean? It's going to sing me a song. Is it going to do that?
Our mounted heads only communicate telepathically, so don't worry about it.
That
Travis.
Explains the screaming. Okay.
It's you from the future. It's fine. It's all going to work out okay.
Okay. Well, you should have just said that. I get that. I've read the internet.
You're a Dungeons and Dragons player, yes? I mean, you have a whole...
Hypothetically, yeah.
Hypothetically. Now, are you a dungeon master, or do you just play?
I am currently dungeon mastering, DMing our current season. I was player for the first couple, and this is my first full-on season of dungeon mastering.
Nice.
And where did you grow up?
So I grew up in West Virginia, Huntington, West Virginia. It's near the intersection of like Kentucky and West Virginia and Ohio. So I lived there for the first 18 years of my life. Then I went to college at the University of Oklahoma in Norman, Oklahoma, and then moved back to Huntington for a couple of years. Then I moved to Cincinnati for about 5 years. Then my wife and I moved to Los Angeles for 2 years, and now I've been living back in Cincinnati for the last 4.
Gotcha. You got out just in time. Let me tell you. It's you can do everything you need to do from where you're at in Cincinnati, and you're not stuck in a giant metropolitan area during a pandemic.
Yeah, exactly. It was a pretty good call, you know? Listen, I have a lot of friends still in LA, and if you're still there and you're listening, I love you very much. Please be safe, but I like it here.
I'm wondering, growing up in West Virginia, was playing Dungeons and Dragons considered satanic?
You know, here's the honest truth. I didn't start playing Dungeons and Dragons until I was 23. So I grew up Southern Baptist, in the Southern Baptist Church, by which I mean like we went. You know what I mean? Like there was a time where I thought about becoming a pastor, but later I realized I just like the attention. A lot of people looking at you, and you got to talk, and everyone had to go, "Oh, amen," and like that felt good. It had nothing to do, in retrospect, with belief. And I don't remember. Everything was satanic at that point. I don't think it was specific. I think like MTV's The Grind was very satanic.
Yes.
You know, there was a lot of that.
Yeah, 1985 through about 1992 is generally satanic. Those are
Satan's years.
Yeah,
those were prime Satan territory right there. Pretty much for me, it was anybody who, if you said, "Oh, I'm a Christian," and they scoffed in any way, that's Satan. There was a lot of that. There was a lot of in my church, like being prepared all the time to have to defend your faith, a thing that never happened to me ever.
Right.
Defending your faith.
Yeah,
like
there was a story told. This is so dark. I don't know if I can curse on your podcast, but
you're allowed. Yeah, please.
It's fucking dark. Whereas, like, we were told, like, I think the same story over and over again now in retrospect of like, especially during like, content warning for like gun violence, but like, for like school shootings, that like. That story of like the girl who the person could put their gun to their head and like, "Are you a Christian? If you're a Christian, I'm going to kill you." And like having the bravery to like say yes and take that. And now I, as a parent, am like, that's fucking terrible advice to give a kid. That if my kid is ever in that position, I want you to say whatever the fuck you have to get out of there, to get home to me, buddy. Anywho, so that was pretty satanic in retrospect, but I think that was just because they were bad at it. They were telling me the wrong thing.
Yeah, I figure more practical advice would be to like how to prevent, demonic possession, because that's what I was always scared about. I was like, the devil's just an invisible force that can jump in my body whenever he wants to.
Well, it was a lot of that of like, oh, did you have like an enjoyment of something? That's the devil. You know what I mean? Of like, oh, you enjoyed that too much. Clearly, that is of the devil. You might, you said a dirty word. Oh no, the devil got all up in there. You know what I mean?
You snuck downstairs and watched NYPD Blue. We know it was the devil behind that.
Right? Oh no, that's the devil right there. Oh, you forgot to take the garbage out. Devil. It's interesting because now I'm a big fan of the show Lucifer, and I think about all the time like where he will just be like, "I'm the devil," and people are like, "Okay, whatever." And I think about that now of like all the people I went to church with, that if I ever actually had been possessed by either a demon or if I'm lucky, the devil. Can you imagine? Just starstruck, like being possessed by the devil and being like, I actually am possessed by the devil. And they're like, "Oh, sure you are, but you do need to stop doing that thing." I'm like, no, I'm actually possessed by the devil. And they're like, "Okay, whatever, sure you are. Okay, whatever."
You think the pastor got a lot of attention. Wait till you walk down the aisle possessed by Beelzebub.
I'm saying, right? That's
a real showstopper.
That's like the third biggest figure in the Bible. You know what I mean? It's like God, Jesus, and I don't think they're possessing anybody. And then the devil. Yeah, it's huge, right?
Yeah, he's the Darth Vader of religion. At least the Christian religion.
Absolutely. I'm so glad they wrote him in. You know what I mean? It would have been so pretty milquetoast without the devil in there. You know what I mean?
It's really, it always, Bryce, I think you know what I'm talking about. The 501st, the Stormtrooper Legion that does all this charity work?
Uh-huh.
We've met some of them actually doing conventions and stuff. They're great guys and they create their own stormtrooper costumes. But it always struck me as so odd is like, why are stormtroopers visiting children in the hospital? They're the bad guys. Like that would be like if someone came to a children's hospital dressed as Satan. You know, like why is Darth Vader showing up to cheer the kids up? Shouldn't it be
love that.
Luke Skywalker?
No, look. So there's a whole. You know, my brother grew up loving all the bad guys. He was a Darth Vader fan, so
right.
A lot of kids out there, they want the stormtroopers, they want Darth Vader, they want Satan.
I learned this playing Knights of the Old Republic a long time ago. The Sith, and by extension, I assume the Stormtroopers, but the Sith have all the cool powers, and the Jedi's powers are really lame. So, like, who doesn't want to shoot lightning out of their fingers, right? Like, cool, dude, you jumped good.
the same is good in like acting, right? So it's like, you know, when you play like a good guy, like a charming, sweet guy, it's like fucking boring. But when you actually get to play like a bad guy or something, or a creep, or it's so much more fun.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Those are my favorite parts to put. Whenever I don't act anymore, but when I used to act, when I used to trod the boards, playing the villain is always the best. It's always more fun, right? Because like you get to be a little bit bigger, and everyone's like, "I get it." You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I think the Christian church can take a lesson. A little more Satan in your Sunday service. More asses in the seats.
The problem is they always do the Satan like big scare. Where's the sexy? Where's a little bit of the temptation, right? It's always just like he's this evil devil. And I never thought that was the case. I always, even like when I was a kid, always thought that if there was a devil, it'd be way more like the devil in Lucifer, where it's just like, well, he's fun, right? He's going to show us, like, he's fun to hang around with. He's not going to be scary and evil, because then, of course, you're going to hang out with Jesus, right? Like, no choice.
He's going to be like that. He's going to be like Ethan Hawke in Boyhood. He's going to be like the dad, the estranged dad who shows up every couple years and takes
brings
you
you firecrackers or some shit, right? Like that's Satan. He's not like looming over you with like fire spitting up from it. He's just like, well, okay, you're 19, but you can have a beer. That would be Satan, right? Like where Jesus is like, I know you're 21, but do you really want to drink? Like that's Jesus, right? And I'm just saying that like resisting temptation is not being poked with a big fork and being told to say a dirty word. It's like, hey, no one's around.
God, let me have my beer, Jesus. You're killing my buzz.
Right?
This is my dad. He hasn't been around in 5 years.
I'm 21 now, Jesus. Get off my back.
I'm just saying this is what the Baptist Church is afraid to tell you. Maybe Satan is kind of fun. Right? Maybe he's kind of fun. I'm not saying that he always leads you to the best choices, but maybe he's kind of fun.
Hey. And besides, you know what? That's on you. Right. You decide at the end of the day what you're putting in and out of your body.
Thank you. Maybe Jesus is a sometimes food. You know what I mean? You can hang out. You can hang out with Jesus a little bit. You can hang out with Satan a little bit, right? Yeah. And then at the end of the day, make good choices. You know,
all things in moderation, including Satanism.
Thank you.
So we have a question we like to ask all of our guests, Travis.
That went way off the rail. I hope no one listening to that is like, what is Travis advocating for? I have no idea what side Travis is on here. I don't either.
It's fine. October's creeping up. We can get into this. We're getting into the scary stuff. What is your personal paranormal history? Did you grow up believing in ghosts and UFOs? Have you ever had a Bigfoot encounter? Is there anything that you could go, that was weird and I cannot explain it?
So I will tell you real, and I will also tell you funny, because that's the kind of person I am.
You just captured the spirit of this podcast.
I mean, that's us.
So this is... I'm gonna pull back the curtain here and be real with you folks. I grew up, and I still have, but I grew up with a super overactive imagination. So I was like afraid of everything. Every like sound of my house settling or like wind outside or whatever, and I would be awake for like hours. And so I could talk myself into anything when I was like 9 years old and being afraid of, and a lot of that was like, I'd be outside, like taking the garbage out at like, 8 p.m., 9 p.m. after dark and think like, wouldn't it be scary if I turned around and there was a vampire there? And as soon as I would think that, it would be like, well, now that's definitely going to happen.
Right.
I completely relate.
And so as I got older, Also, growing up, I was very interested in like cryptids, and specifically the Loch Ness Monster. I have a Loch Ness Monster tattoo.
Oh wow!
Wow,
Yes.
a lot of Loch Ness love on the podcast
Yes.
recently. I mean, hey, we built this podcast on love for the Loch Ness Monster, so that's great.
And so that was a thing, and also I just liked all the kind of like mythology and stories around them. That was, I think, the part that I was most interested in.
This might sound a little awkward, but would you mind sending us a photo of that tattoo?
Oh, sure.
We can look
No
at?
problem with me. I grew up, when I was 10, my parents let me get a dog, and I got a Scottish Terrier, and I named her Nessie. Yes. So I got the tattoo when she passed away. So I'm very proud of it.
I always wanted a Loch Ness Monster, and I always wanted a Scottish Terrier. You were living my dream
There you go.
childhood.
There you go. And so when I got older, I kind of wanted to not embrace it, but kind of like push through, I guess, being afraid all the time. And so one of the things that my friends and I would do from time to time is go explore like really old abandoned buildings and go ghost hunting.
Oh, great.
And I now, as an adult, do not believe in ghosts, only because, one, if you watch enough, like, not even the like ghost hunting TV shows, but more like the most haunted hotels, like it's always the same 4 stories, like, and there was a little girl standing at the top of the stairs. It's like always the exact same set, and she'll move down the hallway. When it's always like exactly the same stories. There's never just like, yeah, he's sitting in my car right now. Like there's never an interesting variation on it. It's always the same, corner of your eye shit. And so I think that if there were ghosts that you could see that existed on our plane or whatever, then I think we would have documented it in some way by now. But
Well, we've proved ghosts exist on this podcast, but that's
well,
beside
there
the
you go.
point.
Well, now I just look like a fool.
No, but I do know what you mean, because it does seem like, okay, if we're getting enough of these common occurrences, maybe it's just the brain. I want to see some like Ghostbusters ghosts. Like I want to see a ghost that's like driving a taxi.
Thank you.
Through a department store.
Yes.
I want to see I want to see Slimer eating hot dogs, like a giant, like some giant monster ghost. Like,
Right.
why don't we get those?
You guys aren't watching Paranormal Caught on Camera, I take it.
Oh
then,
my
on the
God,
Travel
those-
Channel, because there's tons of ghosts on there.
Do you guys remember when the History Channel and the Travel Channel and the Science Channel used to have history and travel and science?
Yeah, that was so
it
boring.
used to only be in October that it would be like ghost stories and haunted shit and like history of vampires. And then at some point they were like, fuck it. Here's a haunted ship or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, history built their brand in the last 10 years off Ancient Aliens. And
yes, absolutely.
Travel Channel now is like, well, nobody goes to the Travel Channel to look up where they want to go this summer. Now they just use the internet. So the Travel Channel has totally embraced the paranormal, and it's, paying off in dividends for them.
But here's what I will say. I do not believe in ghosts or specters. I am open to the idea, though, and this is where this is based scientifically on nothing. And I will not even defend it. I'm like, I know it's dumb, but it's how I feel. That there is, I think, the possibility, I don't know how many different ways I can like hedge this, that like if something is like the idea of like energy adhering to a place, that if you go to a place and you're like, this is a bad place, or this is a happy place, or I believe that that's probably all completely, in your head, all completely psychological and not physical in any way. But there are places you go to where you're like, this place sucks. Like, this is bad. This is bad here. And I am uncomfortable and I do not like being here. And it might be completely psychosomatic, but that to me is the kind of thing where I'm open to that idea.
Yeah.
But the idea that there's just like a ghost who pops up and it's just like, hey, I died on these stairs, please don't walk through me. That to me is like, well, I don't buy that.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. Maybe I don't I don't know if these like spirits of the dead are like remain, keep their individuation. But yeah, you're right. It seems to be some sort of like a trauma loop or memory loop of an energy that's left over that seems to be, presenting itself,
Right. Because that's the thing is I've gone to places and be like, oh, I hate it. I hate it here. And that's not to say everywhere I've gone where someone has said, this place is haunted, that I felt that way. But there are some places where you're like, I am just instantly uncomfortable walking in here and I do not enjoy this whatsoever.
Well, let's unpack that for a minute. What do you think those bad vibes are?
Well, usually it has to do okay, here's the thing. I think about it like when I used to work at a theater, we would just like repaint the floor after every show was done. Right. And so anytime we would have to like do work on the floor, you peel it up and you would see like layers and layers and layers and layers of paint. Right.
Wow. Yeah.
And so it was like a almost like the rings of a tree kind of thing in that way. And like that to me, of just like, if you, like go to, for example, an old mental hospital, right, where people were not only poorly treated, but not like treated for the things that they really needed. If you told me the sheer amount of negative, like things that happened there was enough to leave a trace of something, I'd be like, sure. Yeah, that I don't know that. Yes, absolutely. That's not to say like I believe in like psychics or anything. I absolutely do not. But the idea of it just being like, this is a bad place where enough bad stuff happened that like it is like a lingering smell or a blood stain that you can't get out of fabric or something, where it's just like, yeah, this place sucks.
No, totally. There's something to that, right? It's like the blood, sweat, and tears of our bodies can, perhaps can contain some life on its own. I mean, I love that analogy of, lifting up the paint on the floorboards of a theater. And, probably there is, the performer's blood, sweat, and tears. And it could take on a life of its own, or at least trigger the memory of somebody who walks in there and goes, I'm getting a bad vibe about this place,
right.
I think people tend to be a receiver, and some people are more sensitive than others, and they can possibly, pick up on some of that.
And like I said, now I will hedge again. I don't fucking know. But that is just, the kind of thing where I think that there are certain places, and they don't even have to be like abandoned, haunted places, right? I think there are certain places where you walk into and it's really hard to have a good attitude. It's weird. And whether that is like, like sitting, waiting for an airplane, like at the gate, like it's really hard to feel like I'm so pumped that I'm here. Like, even if you're excited about the trip, you sit down and you're instantly like drained of all your energy. Like, and maybe that's about the design of it or the comfort level of the chairs or whatever. But like, I will say this, it's really hard. Okay. Let me walk it back a second, right? If you are to go back to theater, right? If you're performing a comedy in front of a full house, it's a lot easier to get laughs than if you are performing to like a half empty or more empty house, right? Mm-hmm. Because when you have a room full of people and they're all like right next to each other, one person like chuckles a little bit and the next person feels that kind of spread of humor, like, oh, I guess that was funny, right? And now more and more people are laughing, and it's easier to like tip the bucket into now everyone has exploded into laughter. Where if there's only a few people in the room, it's really hard for that kind of feeling to be contagious, and it takes a lot more to get people laughing because they feel like they're doing it all on their own, right? And so they're not having the same kind of psychic connection.
Yep.
Whether you think that is really happening or just psychosomatic, they are not connecting on the same level, right?
Unless, of course, it's an acting class and these few people all have their heads laying on one another's bellies.
Exactly.
And the first person starts laughing. Then everyone just has to laugh. Everybody loses it.
Or, I mean, to the same degree, right? It is the feeling of, if you've ever been on an airplane, to talk about air travel again, but if you've ever been on an airplane that like has hit really bad turbulence or whatever, and you can feel everyone be relieved when you make it through and when it calms down, it's this big shared feeling, right? Of like, we all went through some together. We all shared that moment, right? So for me, it's just kind of taking that one step further, where it's just like this feeling is kind of hanging in the air. This like a big group of people shared a thing, and then that kind of stayed. That feeling just kind of hung around, right? And it's like, maybe that's complete bullshit, but like, and I don't know what the science behind that would possibly be, but when I think about it, I'm like, yeah, it kind of makes sense. Sure.
I mean, this gives me the creep science. You know what I mean? Like like you said, it just comes down to like, sometimes you walk into a room and you're like, I do not like it in here.
Right.
So what was your, was this your
funny
real story?
So that's the real.
Yeah. All right. Well, why don't we take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to hear the funny story from Travis McElroy. All right, we're back from break. Travis?
Yes.
What's your funny paranormal story?
So, for my part of my honeymoon, my wife and I, there's a castle here in Ohio called Ravenswood Castle. I believe it's Ravenswood Castle. And it's like full on in the middle of Hocking Hills, Ohio, a castle, like a 4-turret castle with like a surrounding storybook village, and like a caravan kind of thing that like look like, you know, old school like cart caravan things. And they once a month, I don't know if they still do them, but they were doing murder mysteries. And the way it was set up is someone has been killed, you know, and the murderer is one of the guests. And it was this company, who I believe was called the Shadow Hunters, organized it. So it was like next level
Satanists.
Next level Satanist. It was top tier devil stuff. And like there were like, you know, on top of the murder mystery, there was also like a diamond hidden that you could find for bonus points, and like brain teasers all throughout the area you could find, and like maps you could solve and stuff. So there's all this stuff. And they were also different themed. So they'd done themes of like Doctor Who and Lord of the Rings and stuff. So this particular one was zombie themed. And I believe that, yes, it was like over the like October 31st to November 2nd weekend, I believe. And so there was also a game going on where everybody started as humans, except there were like 4 zombies, right? And once the sun went down, if you were outside a building and got tagged by a zombie, you were turned into a zombie.
Great.
And if you were a zombie, you now moved slower, right? But you could move with impunity and attempt to bite other humans. So once you were caught, you know, if another zombie came along, you're just like, oh, hi. Yeah, I'm also dead. So it was night 2. And on night 1, people were encouraged to like dress in costume and dress in character. So my wife and I, my brand new wife and I, only married for like 3 weeks at that point, we went as a B-movie director and a B-movie starlet. So she was wearing these like 3-inch, 4-inch heels. So we started being chased by zombies. She was immediately caught, and I sacrificed myself to be with her so we could both be zombies. Which was not my intention, but we did get bonus points for that because the people running it were like, that is very sweet. So we got bonus points, which was nice. So by night 2,
hidden sweet metal.
Yeah, I had no idea. So by night 2, I was a zombie, but I was still working with my team of friends, which included like my brother and my sister-in-law, my older brother and my sister-in-law, Sydney, and like some of our friends. And the organizers had hidden a limb, a rubber, you know, arm out in the woods that if the humans could find would help advance the cure for zombieism research.
Yeah.
And get them bonus points, right? So I'm out in the woods trying to spot it so I can help my team win, even though I'm already a zombie. And at this point, it's about, I would say, probably 1 or 2 in the morning. In the middle of the woods, pitch black. The only light is like from, you know, the lights of like, at this point, I was in like the caravan area. So it's like the lights from the individual caravans, right? and I hear some rustling, and I turn around and say, like, oh, I'm already a zombie. And what I see, and remember, I'm completely alone, all by myself in the middle of the woods. I see a werewolf.
What?
And it is important to note that up until this point, not only has there not been a werewolf in the story, there has not been a werewolf in the weekend.
That's a problem.
So I see this werewolf and immediately turn and run as fast as I can through the pitch black woods. At one point, I even like clipped my shoulder on a tree and kept running, and ran all the way back to the castle.
Now, Travis, how did you know this was a werewolf? What stage of werewolf was this in here?
Thank you for asking. Wolf head, torn shirt, human body.
Wow.
Fairly classic, and standing under like a single light bulb light that was on the caravan. So like framed perfectly, spot lit perfectly. And I'd also been drinking a little bit. All important to know.
Okay.
And so
you're staring at a garden variety wolfman.
That's a
pretty
garden variety.
Like your right down the middle, standard issue wolfman. And so I ran all the way back, slammed the big castle door, and there's my wife and my sister-in-law, Sydney, and I'm breathing so hard. It's probably the fastest I've ever run in my life. And they're like, "What's wrong?" And I explained that there was a werewolf in the woods. And my wife, the practical person, said, "You mean like a guy in a mask?" And I was like, I mean, yeah, probably, all things considered. Yes, but you weren't there. And so then the night continues on a little while, and Justin and I are in the back of the castle in the hedge maze looking for the arm. And I hear somebody yell, "Oh my fuck, a werewolf." What? And I run back in the house again. And at this point, I ran faster than Justin, and I closed the door on him and locked it. And he was outside the glass door saying, "Please let me in. You're my brother." And I yielded to that. That was good logic, and I did let him in. And then we locked it with two women still outside saying, "You have to unlock us." And I said, "No, there's a werewolf.
Let me in. Let me in."
This whole thing sounds like a fever dream.
Right. And so then, maybe at this point, 3:00 in the morning, everyone has retired from search. I think the arm was found. And I was in like the castle tavern. And a gentleman is having a beverage, and he mentions that he was the werewolf in the woods. And I said, "Oh, man, you scared the shit out of me by the caravans." And he said, "Oh, you were the one who ran completely silently through the woods. I had no idea where you went." And I said, "Really?" And he said, "Yes, everyone else screamed, and I could follow them, but you were silent, and you disappeared."
Wow.
I was like, fuck yes.
Take note.
Done.
Dude, you know you can beat a werewolf with your silent powers.
Well, here's the thing, right? I now have an experience that I would wager most people do not and probably will never, which is that feeling of, when you're watching a horror movie, a monster movie, and the monster appears.
Right.
And you're like, "Get out of there. What are you doing? Get out." I would fucking get out of there.
Right.
Like there is no, the speed that went, like before my brain even fully registered werewolf, I think my feet were moving. You know what I mean? Like there was no hesitation. It was just running. And there was no like, Bill, is that you? I was fucking
You're gone. You're out of there. And you're not panting heavy. You're not screaming. So
No.
you're not giving a trace to follow.
I wasn't looking behind me.
So
I
smart.
wasn't where if I hit a tree, bruised my shoulder, woke up with a big bruise on my shoulder the next day. Didn't stop me. Right? Like there was no amount of anything that was going to stop me from getting away from this werewolf.
I'm just picturing your feet silently like dodging between the leaves on the ground so you don't make a sound.
Absolutely. This was like October in the woods in Ohio. There were leaves everywhere. And I was as fleet-footed as one could possibly be.
Those backwoods West Virginia instincts just kicked in.
It was like every piece of 9-year-old Travis that was like, wouldn't it be scary if I turned around and there's a werewolf? Was like, I've been preparing for this all my fucking life.
I want to see like a scene in a monster movie where like maybe Jason's totally perplexed. He's like, he was right there. I scared him. And then he was just fucking gone.
I'm going to go kill these people smooching who aren't paying attention to a goddamn thing.
They're kissing so loudly. I know where to find them.
I would like someone to make a monster movie where one character just bolts, all like is gone, and it's like, well, yeah, we have the last woman who survived, and also this person who always just ran.
The first guy. There's the final girl, and you're the first guy. He runs away, and he never comes. He's never back in the movie.
He's never
after
back,
that.
but you're pretty sure he lived, right? Because we didn't see him die. Right? Yeah. It was just like he ran, and maybe there's a post-credit scene where he gets a call from the last girl, and she's like, "Are you okay?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, I ran 8 miles."
Now, Travis, you said they awarded points. Is that what they used to determine a winner of this murder mystery or this cast?
Well,
was there like a prize cage or
what they did is at the end there were many different prizes for different categories. My team both won for being not only the first but the only ones to solve the murder, and we had the highest point total.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. And the fastest, quietest runner.
and they were just like, and the werewolf couldn't get him, and so now he has the main prize, survival.
I love it. That's a fantastic story, Travis. There's a game that we like to play with all of our guests. I think I know how this might go, but you know what, Bryce, we always have surprises.
You never know. You can't predict.
I'm going to go down a list of phenomenon, and if you're open to it, you're going to say believe it. If you really believe it, say believe it as well. If you're not open to it or you completely disbelieve it, you're going to say bullshit. Those are your two choices, bullshit or believe it. Because this is a game
Can I emphasize, like, believe it super hard if it's like, believe it. Right.
Please, sure. Yeah, all intonation variables, please, if you're on the fence or whatever. Regardless, this is a game called Bullshit
or Believe It.
All right, Travis McElroy. On your mark.
Okay.
Get set.
Mm-hmm.
Ghosts.
Believe it.
UFOs.
Believe it.
Bigfoot.
Believe it.
Little gray aliens.
Bullshit.
Out-of-body experiences.
Bullshit.
Demonic possession.
Bullshit.
The Bermuda Triangle.
Believe it.
Alien abductions.
Bullshit.
Loch Ness Monster.
Believe it.
Time travel.
Believe it.
Mothman.
Believe it.
Reincarnation.
Believe
it.
ESP.
Bullshit.
Haunted houses.
Believe it.
The Illuminati.
Bullshit.
There's a face on Mars.
Bullshit.
Skunk ape.
Believe it.
Sea serpents.
Believe it.
Poltergeists.
Bullshit.
Chupacabra.
Believe it.
Atlantis.
Believe it.
Heaven.
Bullshit.
Hell.
Bullshit.
Life on other planets.
Believe it.
Parallel dimensions.
Believe it.
The apocalypse.
Bullshit.
Life after death.
Bullshit.
Wow, well done, man. That was a really good one.
Yeah,
Thank
totally.
you. It's tough. It's tough because some of those is like not in the form you're thinking of, right?
But,
it's how I would normally answer it. You know what I mean? Like,
no.
But it's all dependent on the user. I mean, it doesn't matter. You don't know how I'm thinking of it.
If there was an Inspiration Award, you would have won it.
That's why it's so hard, because I just want to say well, here's my this is what I would believe about, right?
Well, let's unpack some of those. So time travel, you were for sure believe it.
Well, so yeah, the thing is like time travel, especially more than when you talk about things like demonic possession or poltergeist or whatever, time travel is scientifically, theoretically possible, right? Like there is lots of science and math to back up how one could do it. Correct. The tricky thing is like, could it ever be possible? I don't know, right? Right. But then again, there's also like things that if you told someone in like 1750 that I would be able to pick up, a hunk of something and talk to somebody 3,000 miles away, or even better, see them 3,000 miles away, I would have said that's magic and you're a wizard, right? Like that it is, we are constantly improving our technology. So the idea of saying of like, well, theoretically this is possible, but there's no way we could ever like that, I think is like a matter of time until we figure it out. I actually had an idea recently of like a way time travel might be possible.
Let's talk. Let's talk shit. Let's go. Let's do this.
So this was my thought. If rather than traveling through time, we could determine a way to observe time. If we think about like light as really being what all observation as far as like seeing is, right? So when we talk about traveling through time, we're trying to overcome the speed of light so that we will be able to move beyond the time like period we are in and either step out of the time frame and step back in at an earlier point or at a later point, right? And that is very difficult to do because you would have to create a vessel that could overcome almost infinite friction from approaching the speed of light. So then what if instead we focused on a way to observe the light as it traveled at different points? Instead of, you know, we talk about like any broadcast or light that is sent out never stops moving. It just moves beyond where we are able to observe it, right? So when we look at stars in the sky, those stars might be hundreds of thousands of years old and already burned out.
Right.
But the light is just now reaching us.
That's sort of reminds me. Have you seen Devs? Did you watch Devs on Hulu? All right. I don't want to say too much, but there's sort of a quantum version of that in that show that's really fascinating. So check it out. It's good. Yeah, there's also another book. There's a book that I read years ago. I can't remember the author's name, called Time Travel in Einstein's Universe.
I have that book sitting on my shelf, dude.
Get out of town. That book is amazing because it's the only time I ever understood the theory of relativity.
Yes.
And then I only understood it as I was reading it. And as soon as I was done, like it all left my brain. I was like, I'm clearly too stupid to retain all of this
There's a book called Einstein's Dreams by Alan Lightman. That is just a series of like very, very short stories about like, imagine a town where time works like this, right? Imagine a town where time works like this. And it is all about like relativity and all, but like told in story form. So like, for example, there's one town where it's like the epicenter of the town, the center of the town, time does not move at all. And as you like move away from that, time gets a little bit faster, right? Every step you take away from it. So like as one approaches the center of town, you will see like parents holding children that they do not want to grow up, or lovers who never want to separate moving towards the center, right? As they get slower and slower towards the center. And there's also like a story in there about like a world in which they have realized that the higher you are, the slower time moves off of the ground. Yeah. So the rich are like constantly trying to build their houses on higher and higher stilts, right? To try to stay younger, but never actually like participating in life. They're just trying to get higher and higher so they stay younger, while the people on the ground may not live as long, but they're able to like take walks together and enjoy the sunrise and all that kind of thing.
Whoa, I got to read that. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. It's the kind of thing I read that I think in like high school, and like it stayed with me so long that I like bought the book again as an adult, and just like occasionally we'll like pick it up and read a story out of it, because it's all like different meditations on like time.
Well, it's such a great meditation because it's like, I think it's still an exploration that needs to be explored, like that of consciousness. You know, I mean, we still just don't completely understand it, especially time. You know, your kind of version of what time travel might be reminds me of those sort of fairy circles that people get caught in. And what's one day to us here in the regular 3D dimension on Earth, it's like, you know, 50 years have passed in fairy world. It's insane.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing, right? So much of everything is about observation, and like observable time versus like, you know, like objective time versus subjective time, of just like how much time really exists and like how long is a dream, like that kind of thing. You know, it's like, is that dream 1 second or was it a year in dream time or whatever, like that kind of shit. You know, where who the fuck knows?
Trippy.
As a West Virginia boy, you knew about Mothman, one of the few guests.
Well, here's the thing. The thing about cryptids is I am unwilling to say no to pretty much any cryptid as an because the thing is there are already in the world like these animals that are so endangered, right? That there's like something like 3,000 tigers left in the wild, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine someone born today who never learned about tigers, who sees a tiger for the first time and like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah.
Right? Like, and so the idea of saying there's no way this creature exists now or ever existed is like, man, I don't know. There's some crazy wild shit in the museum that I never would have believed until I saw it.
Yeah.
Like, I think about the Okapi, right? The Okapi was believed to be a cryptid forever because someone was like, you saw what? Get out of here. Until like they captured one alive and they're like, oh shit, this is real. So it's always hard for me to be like, this is nothing.
Well,
and
I think it happens more than
like the fish
camp.
that we thought was extinct, and
Giant squid, silverback gorilla. I mean, giant panda. The list goes on and on. I think it happens more than people realize. I think, we obviously think the world has mostly been explored and that there's no large animals left to be discovered. But and while that's, mostly true, I think there's still some things out there to be discovered.
The place where I try to land on pretty much all of this stuff, except for like life after death and heaven and hell, because I think that those things distract from the life that we are living now and our ability to interact with each other and make the world better. If you're so focused on what comes after, you're not trying to make this place a better place, and that sucks. And so
it's also a method to tell people to suck it up and suffer because things will be better when
or
they're dead.
The way you choose to do something is better than the way they choose to do it because your way gets you into heaven and theirs doesn't. That sucks. And so, but most of the stuff is, I am of the opinion of like, I don't know that I believe that, but if somebody came to me and said, hey, we have evidence, I don't want to be the person who's like, well, I refuse to accept your evidence because I've decided I don't believe it.
Right. I think that's very fair. You gotta keep open-minded to some degree on life in general.
Right.
All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, it's time for this week's story of high strangeness.
This next story of high strangeness may just serve as a warning, as I recently received an email from a listener of the podcast. The listener writes,
"Hey guys, big fan of the podcast, hoping to listen to it while taking a road trip next week with the fam. This quarantine has taken its toll on us, and we're looking to get some fresh air. Thought we'd head to Arizona and check out the Grand Canyon, and do some camping in the surrounding area. Hopefully no monsters there that can get us. Keep up the great work. Dave."
Ha ha, Dave? Ha ha? Well, I'm sorry to report, but you may want to rethink your little road trip. That is, unless you're hoping to encounter a wild, vicious, hairy, 8-foot-tall, bipedal, club-wielding predator known as the MOGOLLON Monster. A creature that would seem to blur the lines between Bigfoot, a wild man of the woods, and what the indigenous peoples of the area refer to as a skinwalker, a shape-shifting phantom damned by the spirits to roam the woods. For this is the true tale of the MOGOLLON Monster. The creature gets its name from the Mogollon Rim, a geological feature cutting across the northern half of Arizona. It extends approximately 200 miles, starting in northern Yavapai County and running eastward, ending near the border with New Mexico. It forms the southern edge of the Colorado Plateau in Arizona, but don't let the beauty of this place fool you. It's a vast and rugged wilderness with death and danger lurking around every corner. The MOGOLLON Monster is reported to be a bipedal humanoid, over 7 feet tall with inhuman strength and large eyes that some claim to be wild and red. Its body is said to be covered with long black or reddish-brown hair, with the exclusion of the chest, face, hands, and feet. Reports claim it has a strong and pungent odor, described as that of a dead fish, a skunk with bad body odor, decaying peat moss, and the musk of a snapping turtle, an exclusive cologne that BCC is feverishly trying to replicate. Now, the creature is omnivorous, nocturnal, and very violent. It is generally reported to walk with wide, inhumane strides, leaving behind footprints measuring 22 inches in length. It's said to be able to produce or mimic the sounds of the wilderness it inhabits, including whistles, bird sounds, coyotes, and other animals. The creature is said to use these skills as it explores campsites during the night, curiously searching for its next meal, which it is said to consume by decapitating them. To give you a little context, Michael would like to read to you a quote from someone who may know a thing or two about carnivorous primate behavior.
Chimpanzees nearly always eat meat slowly, usually chewing leaves with each new mouthful as though to savor the taste for as long as possible. Often, too, I saw them actually licking the branches of the tree where the kill had touched them, or where drops of blood presumably had fallen. Jane Goodall, In the Shadow of Man.
Reports of this large and predatory man-like beast go back to the days of the first settlers of the area. In 1903, the creature was seen near the Grand Canyon by an explorer and hunter named I.W. Stevens, whose story made the Williams News and the Arizona Republic. According to Stevens, he came across the creature as it was hunched over a dead cougar, eating its innards.
I saw a man with long white hair and a matted beard that reached his knees, face seared and burned brown by the sun, with fiery green eyes. He wore no clothing, and upon his talon-like fingers were claws at least 2 inches long. A coat of gray hair nearly covered his body, with here and there a patch of dirty skin showing.
He later stated that the beast somehow sensed his intrusion and reared up to its full height of around 7 to 8 feet tall, threw its hands in the air, one of them wielding a giant club of sorts, and screamed the wildest, most unearthly scream. Stevens reported he was charged by the beast, club in hand, but as he was about to shoot it with his rifle, it stopped, distracted by a mountain lion on a ledge above, giving Stevens the few precious seconds he needed to retreat back to his boat, where he noticed the creature had returned to its meal. When Stevens yelled at the creature from the safety of his boat, he said it fled up the rock ledges, flourished his club again, and screamed. Stevens returned to his camp, then home to Colorado, where he threw himself into researching the origin of what he had just seen, this wild man of the rocks. As he put it, Stevens told the news.
I'm just real quick going to interject here. It's weird to me that this dude had this gun trained on this thing and then didn't shoot. He should just say, I missed. Okay.
Tradition records that years ago, hostile locals captured 3 men, bound them to logs far up the canyon, and cast them adrift upon the swollen river. It may be that this wild creature is one of those unfortunate men who, by chance, freed himself and escaped death, but was made insane by his awful experience.
Stevens wasn't the only one to encounter the beast. A man by the name of Don Davis, amateur cryptozoologist, said he saw the monster during a Boy Scout camping trip near Payson in 1944. As the little club scouts were sleeping in their tents, something not too far off in the distance emitted a terrible scream. Startled, the campers woke, but it was when they heard something rummaging through their campsite that fear began to wash over them. In that moment, the entire area was hit by a pungent odor that permeated the air and made some of them gag. When David looked outside of the tent, he says he was confronted with the sight of a creature the likes of which he had never seen before or since.
The creature was huge. Its eyes were deep-set and hard to see, but they seemed expressionless. His face seemed pretty much devoid of hair, but there seemed to be hair along the sides of his face. His chest, shoulders, and arms were massive, especially the upper arms, easily upwards of 6 inches in diameter, perhaps much more. I could see he was pretty hairy, but didn't observe really how thick that body hair was. The face and head was very square sides and squared up chin, like a box.
Don, do you need a second to catch your breath there?
I just got.
How did you guys get Harry Carey to come and record that? That's incredible.
And just in case you thought, well, Bryce, these are old reports. That creature can't possibly alive today, can it? A recent sighting was given to the site Cryptozoology News by a 28-year-old woman by the name of Y. Estevez, who says she encountered it while hiking along the Canyon Point Trail of the Mogollon Rim. As she made her way along the trail, she noticed a massive brute that looked like a troll, crouched down, drinking from a pool of water. She would state,
It was on its knees, drinking water when I found it. Drinking, making noises like a pig. So at first sight, the animal looked like a pig to me. I figured it was just a pig, kind of hairy though, which seemed a little odd for a hog. As soon as I made a little noise, the animal turned its head and looked directly at me. Now that's when I freaked out. He was staring at me, just like what you do with cougars. They always tell you to make yourself look bigger and to get very loud, and in theory, the animal will leave. So I started making noise and moving my arms up and down. The creature gets off its forelegs and stands on its hind legs. It had long hair, gray and bluish, and I swear it looked like one of those trolls from a fairy tale. Ugly stuff. The face was human-looking, no hair on it, but full of bumps. The eyes were kind of a brown red, thick, big nose, small lips, no expression on its face at all. It then took off running like a person. From now on, I'll make sure I don't hike alone, at least not around here.
So, Dave, listener of the podcast and road tripper thinker about her, heed my warning. For tales like the Mongolian monster are only hoax and hallucination until you encounter such a horrid beast at your campsite. A beast who languidly chews your flesh and sucks the marrow from your bones, not for survival, but for pleasure. And that's the story of the Mongolian monster. Well, there it is. What do you think these people are seeing, Travis? I mean, how would you explain this?
Big monkey.
In other words,
Just big monkey. Probably just a big monkey.
Just a big Arizona monkey.
Just a big monkey. Probably just one of those big canyon monkeys you read about.
Yeah.
You know.
Obviously. Makes sense to me.
It's a big monkey. It's either that or the last Cro-Magnon. It's one of those two. You know?
Yeah, that last lady's description, that made me think it was a wild man. It was like somebody who grew up out in the wilderness, Mowgli style.
Yeah.
And was like, had a lot, just like lives kind of like a wild animal.
Now, but what about Big Monkey?
Yeah. I mean, listen, we get reports of Bigfoot-like creatures all across the continental United States, but, rare is the report that says one was wielding a club. So, yeah, like Michael says, this one sort of sits on the edges of, obviously, it's very much described like a Bigfoot, but it also sort of mixes that between a wild man in the woods, especially with that sort of troll-like description that Y. Estevez gave. It's very strange.
It could
also be a big monkey that picked up a club. Do you ever think about that?
True.
Has anyone checked any local zoos to see if any big monkeys have gotten out? Though that said, it's a very specific description, and I'm sure that if a zoo was missing a monkey and heard that, they'd be like, well, that's our monkey. That's our giant stinky monkey.
Oh, that's just Clubby. He likes getting out of his cage, grabbing the nearest club he can find, and drinking water like a pig.
I do like, by the way, that I like in Y's account how many times she says, one, the word pig, but then also when she says, which was weird for a hog. Yeah.
Right.
I'm pretty sure if I saw a pig covered in hair, I'm like, I don't know much, but that's not right.
A very important point she sought to get across, I think, and did so well.
You know how you see a pig and normally not covered in hair?
Yeah.
Or if it is, it's very thin.
If she had found a pig that was like a really furry, hairy pig, that would have been a real discovery.
That's a find right there.
Yeah. Well, what's your instinct say, Bryce? You did all this research. What's your gut tell you?
I don't know, man. It's very strange. It seems to be, we're still trying to figure out the true nature of what Bigfoot is. So this seems.
Oh, he's a big monkey.
Yeah, big monkey.
Big monkey. Here's the secret: they're all big monkeys. Loch Ness Monster, underwater monkey.
Underwater monkey.
Yeah,
Mothman, flying monkey,
Spring Heel Jack, jumping monkey.
I just want a cryptozoologist to come around to, like, somebody's sighting is like, oh yeah, that was a bat monkey. What?
Yeah.
No,
What?
I didn't describe monkey at all. No, listen to me now. Bat monkey.
Listen to me, friend. I've been in this game for 50 years. It's always a monkey.
It's always a monkey.
Always a monkey.
And if it ain't, then that means you lying.
Yeah. Oh, it wasn't a monkey? Then I know you're telling untruths.
Don't you come around here spitting untruths.
I went to Yale.
I went to Yale. I majored in bananas.
That's how I know.
I'm a big monkey, all right? I'm a monkey. I'm a smart monkey. I'm a smart big monkey.
Isn't that just man when you think about it? Just a smart big monkey?
Or how smart is man, Travis? How smart is man?
Pretty
Travis
smart.
McElroy.
I mean, no, well, we have like cars and computers and stuff.
That's true. That's fair enough.
I mean, smarter than a normal monkey, I guess. I feel pretty comfortable. Book smart.
But how smart, really? How smart in the heart of man are we? Travis, that wraps up another episode of Bigfoot Collectors Club. Thank you so much for being a guest. You are a true delight. We don't know where to find big monkeys, but where can people find you?
Well, you can find big monkeys at the zoo or Grand Canyon. You can find a lot of my stuff at McElroyShows.com. Well, that's not it. Hold on. That's an old one. What am I talking about? McElroy.family is where all the McElroy projects are. If you go to McElroyPodcastBook.com, which, why aren't you already there? You can pre-order the new how-to guide of podcasting written by me and my brothers, Justin and Griffin. It's called Everybody Has a Podcast Except You. It's going to be coming out in January. It is going to teach you, it is a very practical guide that will teach you how to make a podcast that you are proud of. Everything from coming up with an idea to publishing to monetizing. So if you want to check that out, McElroyPodcastBook.com, and you can pre-order it there.
Amazing.
Bryce, I think we might need to read
We should read that book.
Yeah,
you should check it out. It's very good.
Definitely need to check it out. Fantastic. Bryce, what do people need to know about Dirty Picture Cover Up?
Yes, go to thedpcugame.com. Sign up. Pre-sales are going to start in just a few weeks. Actually, by the time this may come out, about another week. So go there, give us your email, and be the first to get the first edition of DPCU the game.
Fantastic. And you can follow us at Bigfoot Pod on Twitter, at Bigfoot Collectors Club on Instagram for pictures. Maybe we'll throw up a picture of that tattoo, Travis, if you don't mind.
Yeah, you got it.
And then please do us a favor. Go to Apple Podcasts, click 5 stars, give us a nice little review. If you do, here's a quick one. We'll read it on the show. This is from Sarah T. Bella. She says, cutest, spookiest boys, 5 stars. I love this pod so much. The hosts are great and know their stuff. Just delightful. See, it can be that easy, and it helps us, helps the show find new listeners like you. Once again, I want to thank Travis McElroy for joining the show. Please go check out all of his work, The Adventure Zone, this new podcast book that I need to read. Until next time, everyone, good night.
And go get regressed. Bigfoot Collectors Club is produced by Riley Bray. Our theme song is Come Alone by Suneaters, courtesy of Lotuspool Records. If you like the show, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. It really helps get the podcast to more listeners. To support the show, check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/Bigfoot Collectors Club and unlock multiple reward episodes every month.